So welcome to the analysis of What Would I Give by Christina Rossetti for A-level. Quite a short poem today, so it won't take us too long to go through this one. So beginning with the heart of flesh that is spoken about in the first stanza, this is a reference to Ezekiel from the Bible, where God reassures Ezekiel that he will replace, or she, depending on what you believe, will replace the heart of stone that Ezekiel has and replace it with a heart of warm flesh. And the idea is that basically if you give yourself over to religion and God, you become a refreshed person, you become a whole person. And it's the idea that God will almost forgive anything so long as you submit yourself to his praise and his worship. And God becomes a cleansing force in this respect. So no matter what you've done, you can kind of have some sort of retribution for it based on your love for God. So you'll see that this poem is set out in tercets, so 3 lines in each stanza. There's a regular rhyme scheme and monosyllabic language, which we have seen previously in Uphill. And this has been used again to disguise the complexities of religion. So by using these simple words and simple phrases and a nice rhyme scheme and a very simple structure, it enables people to focus on the nice parts of religion, I suppose. It almost acts as a piece of propaganda in that respect. The ice cold and the stone could all refer to the idea of sin and how that freezes your heart up, makes you do bad things, and that's the kind of thing that Rossetti is trying to move away from in her love of God. However, she says, "What would I give?" And then she talks about the fact that there is ice cold heart or stone cold hearts, regardless of what she does, which could suggest an apathy, the fact that she doesn't know what she can do to improve. She's tried everything, she doesn't know what is left to try. That could also lead to frustration. What exactly does she need to do to prove herself to God? What does she need to do to prove her worth? It could also be desperation. So whichever way you read that, it's all about Rossetti wanting to be better and she's not sure how to do that. How can she make herself a better person? How can she make herself pure in God's eyes? So moving on to the second tercet, you can see that there is a refrain here, that idea of what would I give? This is the question that is the thread that runs throughout the whole poem. So the suggestion that she's not sure what she could do, or actually what she wouldn't give to be able to be with God. So it could be questioning. It could also frame regret as well. So the idea that she wants to have changed the things that she's done in the past. Maybe this refers to love affairs she's had, or marriages she's rejected, or temptations that she's yielded to. We're not really sure. And again with the tercet, so before I said the simplicity represents or covers up the complexities of the relationship with God, on the other hand, it could also suggest a simplicity of a relationship with God, that actually having this relationship with God makes your life much easier, and that's why the poem is so easy to understand and easy to read. There's also a theory that the tercets could represent the Holy Trinity, so the Father, the Son and the Holy Ghost, with each of the 3 lines, and that's all you need in your life to make sure that your life is full. And then she, as she did in the first tercet, in the second line, she references a feeling that it's difficult to remain pious or difficult to prove your relationship with God. And the fact that her spirit has fallen dumb, maybe that represents this struggle to remain pious. Maybe it represents that she's not sure how to act now to make this better. And she finishes this tercet with, "O merry friends, go your way. I have never a word to say." So quite often in Rossetti's poetry, she excludes herself from her friends, or she feels excluded from her friends or general society. Sometimes because she feels morally superior to them, because she is leading the righteous path and following God's plan, and her friends aren't, because they are yielding to temptation, they're drinking, they're having sex, and she kind of sees them as morally bankrupt. There's also the suggestion that she excludes herself from these situations because she has to repress all of these feelings. So she can't be like everybody else because she's so desperate to prove her love to God. And then in the final tercet, there's an oxymoron of the scolding tears. She says, "What would I give for tears? Not smiles, but scolding tears." So the idea that she wants this painful release kind of echoes this complicated relationship to God, that there's a purity to it, but there's also a pain to it. And she's mentioned this in loads of her other poems, The World, Goblin Market, Uphill, that it's not easy to remain pious. It's not easy to keep a relationship with God. And there's a metaphorical washing there. So the cleansing of her soul to be perfect for God to get to heaven. And the repetition of this semantic field of washing hints at the level of purgation needed. So she needs to wash and wash and wash so that she can be pure enough to have an uncomplicated relationship with God. And if you wanted to read further, there's a good article on Victorian Web written by Boscia, who says that in her poems, God is always present and her love for God always trumps the love for another human. And this seems to be the message of this poem, that she will give up whatever she needs to give up in order to prove her faithfulness to God. And if that includes not loving her friends or not loving a partner as much as she should, then so be it, because her relationship to God is the most important thing to her, even if she struggles with it.